He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Congratulations goes to the United States military and to the Commander-in-Chief in taking out al-Baghdadi. Is that so hard to say? Apparently it is for the media. Apparently it is for the media, because the media hates Trump. And the media hate America too, quite frankly. There's no question about it. They would rather have seen the military and Trump fail and have headlines about failure than have to talk about how our military was so incredibly successful and how our Commander-in-Chief was very decisive. I want to remind you of a few stories not that long ago. I want to remind you of a piece that was written by Brett Volodrovich at Fox News some years ago. This is very, very important to understand. The U.S. military had the leader of ISIS in its crosshairs years before he became the most wanted terrorist in the world. But the bureaucratic suits in Washington let him get away. This is under Obama. In 2011, a secretive U.S. Special Operations Task Force was orbiting a drone above a house in Baghdad, Iraq, where they had new intelligence that the notorious terrorist leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi had bunkered down for a meeting with his top ISIS lieutenants. A call went out from our headquarters. This is an excerpt from a book. A call went out from our headquarters and then back to higher-ups in the States. We've got him. Can we take him out? And the book is called, by the way, Drone Warrior. Our secretive targeting units had been hunting al-Baghdadi for years before he was known to the public, pushing him deeper and deeper into the shadows. Our weapon was mainly Predator MQ-1 drones equipped with 2 laser-guided AGM 114P Hellfire missiles, and a separate team of special operators able to finish off targets we had acquired from the ground. To my deployment, through it, our team conducted dozens of raids specifically aimed to uncover him. Mostly I was chasing leads to his whereabouts, tracking his family, or capturing people in his inner circle. Attempts at tightening the noose around his neck. I knew just about everything one could know about him, places he visited, what he ate, who he met, the businesses in Iraq he laundered money through, and so forth. I knew more about him than his own family. I just needed the missing puzzle piece of his precise location. But every day we hunted, and with each new piece of intelligence we gathered on him, I inched closer to his demise. One point, the special ops soldiers within our task force were inside one of al-Baghdadi's safe houses only 30 minutes after he arrived, capturing an ISIS courier in the process that al-Baghdadi had dropped off a secret letter to only minutes before. We would later use that very letter and courier to take us to the original leaders of the Islamic State, killing them days later, subsequently allowing al-Baghdadi to fill the leadership gap and quickly rise to the top of the ISIS food chain. Now in December 2011, the intel lead of the drone unit watched on the screens as a man exhibiting the exact signature and description we always had for Baghdadi arrive in a vehicle to a small concrete house in downtown Baghdad and then proceed inside. When they zoomed in on him, there was no doubt it was the leader we had been hunting. Walking into the courtyard of the house, heavy-set and balding, other terrorists inside the compound lining up to hug the leader as he walked inside. This was the Baghdadi I knew. Years before our teams would have taken action without asking for a green light from Washington, a drone strike or team of special operators kicking down the door the very same night. But the State Department had changed the rules for raids, as U.S. troops were told they could no longer remain in country, and the planned raid on al-Baghdadi was delayed. The team was now operating under different legal authorities of law under the Obama administration than the year before. The war in Iraq in 2011 had officially come to a close. Before any raid or drone strike could happen, multiple levels of suits from Washington had to sign off. Days passed by, often weeks, before a strike could be put into action. Lawyers were now running the last legs of the war from behind air-conditioned desks in Washington, while we were hunting down the last remaining leaders from inside the war zones. ISIS had virtually gone extinct, but the few of us doing this work day in and day out knew what was to come. At the time, few outside our close-knit intelligence circles knew much about Baghdadi, but I knew he was one of the most dangerous terrorists in the world. The U.S. eventually put a price on his head, a bounty of $10 million. For a long time, he had been a ghost, like a lot of guys we hunted. He was surely better at hiding than any other man on our list. His operations security, OPSEC, was the best in the business. He was paranoid that we were getting close. He would be somewhere and then disappear without a trace, like a weather pattern. He knew one little slip-up and we had him. Members of Inner Circle were disappearing as a result of our operations. He was seeing his closest friends and family members being captured or killed by our team's work daily. No doubt our elite Special Operations Task Force made him the security-obsessive psychopath he is today. Paranoid of my team was what kept him alive. Few even know the story of how he was missed. It certainly was never made public for obvious reasons. No one wanted to talk about it anywhere in the government or the military. The world's most wanted terrorist could have very well met his maker that very night before he truly took the reins of ISIS years later. How do you like that? By 2011, the assault team had gone home. In their place, they had to rely on local hit squad to kick down doors and so forth. But the biggest problem that night was the layers of authority that had been added to our world like a badly constructed building. The drone team traditionally fell under the Department of Defense, but now that the war had moved on, the Special Ops Task Force had to get any hits cleared by both intelligence agencies and the Department of State. This was how things had changed in 2011, for the worse. So as the drone team looked down at the house through an infrared camera, the request to raid passed from one empty suit to another. From Iraq to Washington. Calls were made to bosses multiple times, pressing them to make a move, knowing that Baghdadi was in the house at that very moment. It was 2 weeks before they finally approved the mission. But by that time it didn't matter. When the Iraqis finally stormed the house, the al-Baghdadi I knew doesn't stay anywhere for 2 weeks. Who did we get that night? They grabbed up a gang of Islamic State members, and guess what those fighters confirmed? Baghdadi had in fact been there 100% only days before. Guys from our team talked about it for months after. How could the suits screw up like that? After that night in 2011, Baghdadi disappeared into Syria for months and then years again. When he came back, he was leading the charge across a broken Iraq, and ISIS was the new Al-Qaeda version 2.0. He'd established an Islamic terror state, and the United States is still trying to track him down to this day. We were so close, man, I can't believe we missed him. Out of all the people we went after, one of the guys within our task force said to me over drinks one night, "It's a new kind of war," he lamented. "The rules have changed. Our hands had gotten more and more tied by the damn suits." Excerpt from the book, Drone Warrior, an elite soldier's inside account of the hunt for America's most dangerous enemies, 2017. The media is not mentioning any of that, as they try to ridicule Trump, ridicule him, for giving the go-ahead to our military to take him out. And then they ask immediately, did he tell Pelosi? Is Pelosi part of the administration? No, but Mark, there's a Gang of Eight. The Gang of Eight and Pelosi aren't notified every single time a military action is taken. But it's more important to keep our soldiers safe and to accomplish the mission. Nancy Pelosi has a very big idea of what the speaker is, but her idea is much bigger than the reality. Here's another piece I want to read to you from Catherine Herridge back at Fox News in 2017. Aspen, Colorado. ISIS in Iraq and Syria has been dismantled with tens of thousands of jihadist fighters dead. But a promising lead on its leader went dead after a media leak, according to a key U.S. military official. We've absolutely dismantled his network, General Tony Thomas, speaking of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, said at the Aspen Security Forum. I mean, everyone who worked for him initially is dead or gone. Everybody who stepped to the plate the next time is dead or gone. Down through a network where we have killed, in a conservative estimate, 60 to 70,000 of his followers, his army. And he leads the Special Operations Command. He said his team was particularly close to Baghdadi after the 2015 raid. So that's twice now. They killed ISIS oil minister Abu Sayyaf. That raid also netted his wife, who provided a wealth of actionable information. That was a good lead. Unfortunately, it was leaked in a prominent national newspaper about a week later, and the lead went dead, said General Thomas. The challenge we have is in terms of where and how our tactics and procedures are discussed openly. There's a great need to inform the American public about what we're up to. There's also a great need to recognize things that will absolutely undercut our ability to do our job. Thomas appeared to be referring to a New York Times report in June 2015 that detailed how American intelligence agencies had extracted valuable information. New insights yielded by the seized trove, 4 to 7 terabytes of data, according to one official, include how the organization's shadowy leader, al-Baghdadi, operates and tries to avoid being tracked by coalition forces, reported the New York Times. And Thomas believes that leak into their opportunity in 2015 to kill Baghdadi. Once the Obama administration's bureaucracy, and the other, the Democrat Party media. So what did the Commander-in-Chief do? Donald Trump? He has a good sixth sense, a good gut when it comes to these things. He ordered the military to get him. He didn't tell Pelosi because he didn't want it to leak to the New York Times or anybody else. No, we don't trust Pelosi or the Democrats. They leak all the time. Nor do we trust the media. The media don't care about America. The media care about the Democrat Party and themselves. The president did exactly the right thing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Since